Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I prepared another short list video for all of you. Today we're going to be looking at 5 must-read surreal comic books from DC and Marvel Comics. This was a topic I've been thinking about for a while, so I'm really excited to prepare this short video for all of you. Before we jump in though, I do want to shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking for your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can actually find a link for it in this video's description, and if you see something you like, you can even use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's probably the best way you can support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's list. To kick off today's list video, I'm going to be talking about Arkham Asylum by Grant Morrison and Dave McKean. Frankly, I'm starting the list with this because this was my impetus for creating this list in the first place. When I think of a surreal comic book, look no further than the pages of Arkham Asylum. Grant Morrison is one of my favorite comic book writers. This writer has such a way of playing with heady or philosophical concepts that really just melt my brain. I don't know how else to say it. Sometimes they're intensely cerebral storylines or just straight up head trips. And what we get here with Arkham Asylum is to me a bit of both. The essential premise is that Batman is entering the Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane, and with the artwork of Dave McKean, we get to see this asylum like never before. We get to see Batman kind of delve into this space of madness. We get to see some of Gotham's villains just horrendously but grotesquely beautifully portrayed by this incredible illustrator, and honestly, there's not another graphic novel I've ever read like it. This is a really haunting book that just really stays with you long after when you've read it. It's really Batman completely unhinged in a certain way. Like I said, the visuals alone just transport you to a whole nother place, it feels like. This was really well done, and I think Morrison turned in something truly unique here. When I think about a surreal comic, I think of something beyond the norm, something that's beyond magic realism into just a space of what is even going on? What is reality? What is my perception? What is even happening? And that's what I felt reading Arkham Asylum. And even flipping through this book, I'm reminded that it's been maybe far too long since I've revisited this title. I actually don't believe I've ever even reviewed it on this channel. Have you read Arkham Asylum? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, just looking through this, the kind of painted, artistic, impressionistic kind of style that McKean employs, it really just sets this moody, atmospheric tone that is further elevated by the incredible Morrison. And as you'll see, Morrison does appear a few times in this video. Morrison as a writer is one who often employs these kind of surreal or trippy ideas or concepts. I did not include Doom Patrol from Grant Morrison. That would have been a great inclusion on this list as well. But I did include a few that you'll see momentarily. But for right now, going back to Arkham Asylum, if you enjoy Batman, but you also like the strange, otherworldly, or bizarre, especially in your comic book art, and you somehow have never read Morrison and McKean's Arkham Asylum, this is definitely the place to start for you. I did read Arkham Asylum when I was a newer comic book fan, and it left, like I said, an impression on me. I really need to revisit. I'm curious to see how I feel about it now in recent years. This art style, I will admit, is not one that always appeals to me, but yet it is so striking, and I can never deny the artistic talent that it takes to do this. Like I said, it really, really is something decidedly different. If you want to see a review of this on the channel, let me know, and it might just be time for that reread. Next up on my surreal DC and Marvel list, I'm going to be talking about Moon Knight by Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood, and team. This is a book I read, I believe, toward the end of last year. It was one that was on my wish list or to-read list. It felt like forever. I know that this run is considered one of the best for Moon Knight and also one of the best modern Marvel comic book runs in recent memory. It is a admittedly shorter comic book run. I think it's just over a dozen issues, give or take, but it's a really fun exploration of this character. For those that don't know, Moon Knight is a character, Mark Spector, who suffers from dissociative identity disorder, or kind of that multiple personality disorder. He also kind of is commissioned by this sort of kind of mythological creature from this like Egyptian pantheon to basically protect those who travel by night, and he's just a brutal vigilante hero. But this one just really takes it to another level. Lemire takes us into another kind of asylum where we get to see Mark really questioning what is real, what is happening around him. Does Moon Knight exist? Is he Moon Knight? Is anything real? Can he believe his perceptions or what he's seeing around himself? We get to see a lot of kind of hallucinations, visions, as he slots into different personalities as well throughout this narrative. We change artists as well. I think that this was a masterstroke by this creative team, and it lends to the overall surreal quality of this book. I think that this book does employ a kind of magical realism as a narrative technique, and honestly, I just think the way that this kind of has these mind-bending ideas, or kind of, like I said, how it plays with perception, or what you're feeling is real as a reader even, it really just feels like a surreal book. The whole thing just feels very dreamlike to me in the best way possible. I really loved this. Jeff Lemire is a writer I thoroughly enjoy. I actually just read his book, The Underwater Welder. I either just reviewed it on this channel or the review will come out shortly. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do the production order on this, but that's another one that kind of employed these surreal ideas. But I think Lemire is such a gifted writer, and to see him approach a character like Moon Knight, well, it's just an absolute blast. And the art predominantly provided in this collection from Greg Smallwood absolutely sells that kind of surreal idea. Smallwood's art is just transcendently beautiful in this. I had never encountered the artwork of Smallwood, at least to my knowledge, before reading this, but it's made me arguably a lifelong fan of this comic book illustrator. Gorgeous, gorgeous work here. It is a terrific run that I actually don't think you need to read much Moon Knight before to enjoy. There are some Easter eggs, and knowing more about this character, it will benefit what you take out of it, but I think just about anyone can pick this up and enjoy it. Really, really a fun look at this character, at the idea of mental health and what is real. Just a fun book all around. Had to include it on this Surreal Comics list. And hey, if you are enjoying this list video, but you've yet to subscribe to the channel, I just want to invite you to do so. I'm always doing comic book lists similar to this, comic book reviews, unboxings, hauls, and more. Anyway, thank you for considering. Now let's keep this list going. Next up on this Surreal Comics list, we're going to be looking at Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4 from Grant Morrison and Jay Lee. This story takes place during the Marvel Knights era over at Marvel. This was a time where we got more kind of gritty, edgier storylines. Anyway, for my money, this is actually one of my favorite Fantastic Four stories. Jay Lee is a comic book illustrator that in my mind really shines at this idea of otherworldliness in his illustrations. I know he's done the art for kind of the Gunslinger Dark Tower comic book adaptations over at Marvel as well, adapting that Stephen King fantasy property. He did the Batman Superman series at the start of the New 52. I honestly just see his artwork pop up everywhere, but it always has this dreamlike quality for me. There's a lot of hard lines and kind of interesting angles and shape work, and like I said, everything just feels very dreamy when he approaches these projects. Grant Morrison, as I've already discussed during the Arkham Asylum portion of this video, this artist can really sell the kind of surreal what is reality aspect of storytelling, and I see that on full display in this Fantastic Four story. I think what's so amazing about Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4 is that at the beginning things feel fairly mundane or not too out of the ordinary, but in the background we have these bubblings of something much stranger going on behind the scenes. This is an idea that really just expands as we progress through the storyline, and it ultimately culminates in a very satisfying, epically scoped, just mind trip of a story. Really like this. I think for fans of Fantastic Four as well, if you want them a little bit edgier, this is a great storyline. This is also a comic I read early in my comic book reading journey. It's not like the first Fantastic Four book I ever read by any means, but honestly, well, it might have been one of the early handfuls of Fantastic Four books I ever read. I really loved how Morrison portrays Namor and Sue's relationship in from this. I think it was really fascinating to explore that. Love her relationship with Reed, obviously, but it was fun to see Namor's inclusion in this and how that added to kind of the otherworldly feeling of the whole story here. The art is just beautiful by Jay Lee. I just really think he adds a whole nother layer to what he usually brings in this book, and I just think it's beautiful. I think that this work really should be celebrated perhaps more than it is. I understand that it might not be in the happy-go-lucky spirit of some of the Fantastic Four storytelling, but I think it's an absolutely amazing story for these characters. I think that this is also a good middle ground for a lot of people that maybe don't want to check out the Fantastic Four for whatever reason, but happen to like these creators or want to explore something a little bit different. Like I said, it's not as squeaky clean as a lot of other Fantastic Four stories, but it's super gripping, engaging, and it reads really well. It's well paced, it's fascinating, and to me, this is a comic I will come back to every couple years just because I thoroughly enjoy it. It's such a fun read. It was one of the first books I reviewed on the channel, I believe. But yeah, a really fun, surreal book that has a really, really satisfying payoff, at least as far as I'm concerned. A surreal gem. Have to check it out. Next on the list is arguably a more contemporary title. This is Silver Surfer Black by the great Donny Cates and Tradd Moore. And full disclosure, this is actually the first work I ever read by Donny Cates, I believe. Actually, might have been King in Black. Not sure. One of the earliest works I ever read from Donny Cates, and absolutely my first exposure to Tradd Moore. For those unfamiliar with Tradd Moore's style, you'll absolutely see it starting on page 1, but it almost feels like you're inside of a lava lamp as it explodes into a kaleidoscope. I mean, it is just mind-bending, beautiful, trippy. Really, really love this artist's style. I think that that's where my sense of surrealism comes in most when I think of Silver Surfer Black, but certainly the narrative we get from Donny Cates also adds to this. The essential premise of Silver Surfer Black is that the Silver Surfer has fallen into a black hole, and from there things get really interesting. He explores these kind of unknown foreign spaces and places. He goes into his own memory, he re-explores his own life, and it's really kind of an existential trip to, for lack of a better phrase there. Really enjoyed this as both a fan of Silver Surfer, but also as a fan of Donny Cates. I really loved his Venom run. This, I believe, takes place after the events of his Guardians of the Galaxy run, or during, but I think even without reading that, you can still absolutely enjoy this as kind of a standalone graphic novel. I just have here the standard size paperback. It is also included in an oversized format, and I believe the Marvel Universe by Donny Cates, or whatever that omnibus is called, the Cosmic Universe, I don't know. Donny Cates' kind of space omnibus they released a while back. There's also a kind of gallery-sized edition for this as well that I'm sure is beautiful, but I just got kind of the cheaper trade paperback copy here, and I still really enjoyed it. Absolutely a surreal book. I love this approach that it's Silver Surfer in a black hole. Like, of course things are going to get a bit trippy and weird, but it's done really well. And I think, again, as a Silver Surfer fan, I think it was just a joy to read. But as someone who just likes modern comics, likes Marvel comics, I think that this might have something for a lot of people. I do think that the art is maybe an acquired taste. So many people love it, and I get why. I just think it is really jaw-dropping and beautiful, but it is of a kind. And that is one of the main reasons, like I said earlier, that I put it on the Surreal list, because it's baked right into the artistry. Really, really cool stuff here. I think if you like modern Marvel and you're looking for a surreal kind of book, this is a really fun place to start. It does feel very self-contained as well. It does have cool Easter eggs leading into other storylines. If you're a fan of the other works of Donny Cates, this is definitely a cool little just building block in his big storytelling arc. Especially if you like his Venom run, there's a lot of little fun Easter eggs here as well. But just a great Silver Surfer story, a great exploration of what existence is, what your purpose is, and trying to find your identity again. Just really, really cool stuff. If you're looking for a fun, surreal time, don't miss out on Silver Surfer Black. And last but certainly not least on this video of surreal Marvel or DC Comics, I'm going to be talking about Final Crisis. This is a comic book event from DC Comics written by, again, Grant Morrison. Yes, this author has three-peated on this video because when I think of Surreal Comics, I do think of the works of Grant Morrison. Again, I probably should put Doom Patrol on this list. You can save your comments or talk about how fun Doom Patrol is, but I did decide to do Final Crisis. One of the reasons for it is because I thought it would be cool, for lack of a better word, to include a big event book in this Surreal list, because I think sometimes when we think of Surreal Comics, we can think of these kind of niche and kind of separated, maybe indie feeling kind of books, but I thought it'd be fun to showcase a mainstream comic book event from one of these major publishers and just say, hey, this book is still a major head trip. I think that Final Crisis is one of the better DC events. I think my favorite is probably still Infinite Crisis, but this one is a lot of fun too. This might take my second place medal for DC events that I've read so far. This is really, really fun for fans of the DC universe in general. We have some great character moments from a lot of the main kind of Justice League character mainstays. This is a kind of Justice League and DC Universe versus Darkseid story, just at its core, but it goes a lot of unusual places. There are a lot of surreal elements. I think for people reading this for the first time, especially without a lot of context, there might be a few moments where people are scratching their heads and kind of saying, huh? And some of that is because we might need a more comprehensive look at the DC Universe to enjoy this, but some of it is just because Morrison just really includes a lot of just heady, interesting ideas in this. I think for a mainstream publisher, a mainstream event, this really has a lot of fun twists and turns that really heavily impacted a lot of the DC Universe in general. Really love some of the Batman beats we got in this book, love some of the Flash beats we got. Really a fun story here. I am aware as well that there is a Final Crisis omnibus that DC Comics has released. I have yet to upgrade to that. I would love to know in the comments below, though, if you've read the Final Crisis omnibus, let me know if you'd like it. I know for me, reading the Infinite Crisis as a trade paperback, just the main event issues, and then reading the omnibus, I was so treated at the fuller picture we got of the event. I'd love to know, does the Final Crisis omnibus feel like that? Do you feel like you have a broader sense of the vision of that event, or is it a bit messy? Let me know in the comments. Again, I'd love feedback on that. But basing it just on the event itself, just on the paperback here, I will say it does feel surreal in its own way. I love the sense of stake here. I love the epic scope, and I just think it's a ton of fun. I don't know if this was the best list to include it on, but like I said, I thought it'd be fun to do a surreal list that still showcased a major comic book event. So here we are with Final Crisis. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if there's a better event series that feels more surreal from Marvel or DC. Maybe it's a recommendation I have yet to read. Would love to hear about it. Okay, and that's going to wrap us up here for 5 must-read surreal comics from Marvel and DC Comics. Let me know, did your favorites make this list? What have I missed? I am sure there are tons. You might even have arguably better selections. Let me know. I'd love to read more surreal but really solid comic work from Marvel and DC, so let's sound off in the comments section. And also would love your feedback. Are you still enjoying these list videos? I've been pumping out quite a bit in the standard rotation, whether they're top 5, top 10, or kind of more specific. At any rate, I'm still really enjoying making them. I think it's a really fun way to revisit more of my collection, showcase more books for all of you, and really engage in more discussion. I find with these lists, I get more comments from people really just focusing on one book or another book or what they can add to the list, and I really like that kind of engagement. Anyway, would love to just get a pulse for who's still enjoying these videos. I'm still going to probably produce some of them, but I'd love to get more opinions on this. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. This has been a real treat, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave this video a like, that comment we talked about with some of your recommendations, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks, have a good one.